Greetings, everyone. Pete Pardo here from Sea of Tranquility. Welcome to a special episode of the show with a very special guest. We've got from Big Train, bassist, songwriter, Gregory Spawton. What's happening, Gregory? How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. Yeah, not too bad. It's a bit cold here, but probably going to be colder in the States when we come. So we need to get used to it.
Yes, and we're going to talk about the upcoming tour and the tour
Yeah.
dates. But yes, as of today, I'm in New York.
Yeah.
It is very chilly today, and I think tomorrow we're expecting close to a foot of snow.
No, really?
Yes.
Wow. Okay.
And this
Okay.
is after we've had like a warm spell where it was like in the 50s
Yeah.
for 3 or 4 days. So it's just
So
been,
this is going to make packing for us quite tricky because we're then heading down to Florida, as you know. So it's going to be
yes.
quite a challenge. But anyway, we'll talk about that later.
Yeah, you will need different sets of clothes because
Layers.
I would expect it to be
Layers.
cold here. That's just the way it goes, but
Yeah,
you
sure.
never know. You never know. So it's really great that Greg is here with us today because not only do they have the upcoming tour here in the States, a select number of dates, and the cruise, which is coming up, but they've got a brand new album that's hitting streets, I think, March 1st, right, Greg? I think
Correct. Yeah.
right around the
Yeah.
corner, and that's called The Likes of Us.
Yeah.
So this is a brand new, and this is your first official new release on Inside Out. I know you've worked with
It
them
is.
before. Yeah.
Yes, it is. Yeah.
Okay. And also the first full album with Alberto Bravin on lead vocals for the first.
Correct. Yeah. Yeah.
So I've had a chance to listen to a bit of the album. I think folks are going to really like what they hear. But maybe we can kind of take a step back a little bit. If you can
Sure.
go back a few years ago, obviously, we lost David a few years
Yeah.
back, and I know that was a really heavy blow for the band.
Yeah.
And replacing someone like him is never easy.
Yeah.
Could you take us back to that time and maybe the grieving process of the band and were you guys always intent on moving forward, or was there a little bit of uncertainty at the time when David left us?
Uh, I mean, no. I mean, we were. I mean, there was no. Everything was uncertain. And of course, the main thing you think about when you lose. Well, David wasn't just a bandmate; he was our friend. So it was in every respect. And it was also a shocking death. We didn't. He wasn't ill, so there was no. This came literally out of a clear blue sky. One day the world was normal, and then the next day everything
It
had
wasn't.
changed.
Yeah.
No, we took several. Yeah, none of us could really process it, to be honest. We then, once we got through funeral and stuff like that, we obviously went away and were thinking about things. And my position was, I think the thing is, you've got to, as a musician, we'd all put our. Oh, sorry, there's a little cat behind you. Is that a cat or a dog?
That's a
It's
dog. Yeah, that's a husky. Yeah.
just
So
on your
yeah.
rear end. Oh, there we go. There we go. Nice tail. As a musician, you put your heart and soul into your music, into your band, and we'd all done that. It must at the time there was just really myself, Rickard, and NDV. So the view that I took was, after considerable reflection, I thought, well, I want to see if we can find a way of carrying on. But I only was going to do that if the three of us were on board. There was no, there was that was it. If any of us had said no, then it was over for me. And the other thing I must say, and this sounds like I'm kind of, it sounds like a self-justification, but it's not. But it's that David absolutely wanted the band to carry on if something happened to him. And you might ask, well, how come that conversation ever came up? And the reason that conversation came up is because both of us are in our 50s, and we were dear friends, and we'd go and have a beer, and we'd have a Zoom or whatever, and so you would just get to talking the stuff, and so he said that to me, and he'd also said it to his partner Sarah. So we felt that we had a sort of consent from him to carry on. We also were aware that carrying on would help his legend grow or continue, or the memory of him not fade away, which is important to us. But as I say, it came back to a decision for the three of us, really. If Ricardo and David had been out, then I was out. That was it. But we all felt the same. We'd all put our heart and soul into it for several years, and we felt, actually, if we can find the right person, boy or girl, to be our front man and singer, then we'll give it a try and see what happens. See what happens.
And how was the response from the fan base at that point? I mean, because as we've seen with lots of bands over the years, when a singer leaves or a singer passes, no X, no bands, right? That's usually,
Yeah, yeah,
in a
yeah.
lot of cases, that's the opinion. But I don't get the sense that that was the case here. I think people have been pretty open to
That's
Alberto. I mean, you're sure you're going to get folks who are going to be loyal
yeah.
to David, right? But yeah,
Yeah, for the most part, people have been absolutely open to us carrying on. I'm sure some people have said no or can't. Music is an emotional thing. It's emotional for the musicians. It's emotional for the listener, and some I'm sure will just say, right, it's not for me. And people, you look at there are not that many bands that have found themselves in our uh, dreadful situation. There are a few. Mostly, it's where singers leave, and there are great examples of Genesis or Marillion. And I can see on Marillion forums, you still get the Fishites and the Hogarthites and all that stuff. So it is what it is, and we don't take any of it personally. If people say I want to leave it there, that's fine. All we set out to do is to find the best person that we could, to lead us and to make the very best album that we could. And that was really the most important thing for all of us. We weren't if we were going to do this, we were going to do it. We couldn't do it half cock. It had to be all or nothing. And so that's, having found Alberto, that's what we decided that we'll do. We'll make it the very best album that we can at this point in our careers.
sure. Well, to your credit, I think, and to use the Marillion comparison again, you brought in a singer who really doesn't sound anything like David, and that's the
Yeah,
case with
that's
Alberto.
exactly right. And we, there was no, that was almost the first thing on my sort of checklist, really, is not seek somebody that sounded like David. I felt it would be a little bit disrespectful. I felt it would also be a bit obvious. But I very much felt that it just needed to be somebody that brought their own thing and wasn't being expected to be David or to just sound exactly like David. And of course, again, that's a jump off point for some people because some people get used to a certain style of voice. David had what I describe as a sort of soul. He was an old soul singer, really, in his to his bones, I think. Whereas Alberto's got more of a rock singer's voice. So there's a different background and different style coming through. But I think that's important. As I say, I wasn't comfortable with the other approach.
Yeah, no, I would agree. So, how did you guys meet Alberto? How did that all happen?
Well, I'd seen him. I saw him perform with PFM in 2015, and I hadn't seen that lineup of PFM, so I went with a kind of open heart and all that sort of stuff. But I was blown away. The guy that I was most blown away with was the most recent recruit to the band, who was kind of playing keyboards and singing the more difficult to sing songs. So Franz, the drummer, sings a lot of the back catalogue, but when it got to the really technically more challenging stuff, I could see very clearly that the guy, I didn't know his name at the time, but the guy behind the keyboards uh was taking it. And I just thought, why, that guy's just got an amazing voice, and why isn't he at the front of the stage? And all of those things were going through my mind. And for many years I've been thinking about doing a solo album, and I just keep a note of people's who I might have wanted to work with as a solo project. So I just wrote PFM keyboard singer on my phone because I didn't know his name. Subsequently found out his name and just had that on my phone, Alberto Bravin, with a list of other people who, keyboard, guitar, whatever, sort of a virtual band that I was thinking of doing for my solo thing. So when it came to looking for people to audition, he was literally the first. He was literally the top name on my list. There were many others because we drew a short list up after that. But yeah, he happened to be he's the one that came through. So it was interesting that um, I'd I'd sort of brushed against him along the way, but hadn't made any contact with him or followed that up in any way, shape, or form. And to be honest, when I emailed him, I didn't know. I had no idea. I mean, we'd never played a show in Italy, so I had no idea if he'd have even heard of Big Big Train. But and it was it wasn't a sort of, do you want to audition for Big Big Train email? It was a sort of, have you heard of us sort of thing. And he came straight back and said, yeah, God, I'm a big fan of you guys. So that's when I started the conversation off. And it was, yeah, audition process. Him and several others went through it, and he was the standout candidate for us. And yeah, so we appointed him, and we kind of appointed him almost before we met him, if you see what I mean. You know, he came to London to meet with us, but because of the way the band is, with band members in all so many different countries in the world, very complicated. We have to use time very well. So, you know, we get when we're together, it's rehearsals, writing, photo shoot. You know, that's we always have to do those things, video, whatever, because time is precious to us. So he was kind of thrust into a photo shoot really before, almost before he'd properly had lunch with us. But the thing is, you know, with modern technology and you know, Zoom and FaceTime, I'd spoken to him many times, and I got the vibe from him that this guy was the right call. You know, he was the right choice. So, and thankfully, that was, you know, that was exactly right. You know, when I met him, I thought, okay, he's taller than I remember, but other than that, you know, he was exactly the same guy that I got to know on Zoom.
Yeah, most of us Italians are not that tall. Speaking from
He's
experience.
yeah, he was yeah. I was for a little while. I've been the tallest person in the band for a long time, and I'm sort of thinking, I'm not sure I am. Actually, to be fair, Danny was very tall. So we've had a few tall ones there. But yeah, he's lovely, and you know he's been you know I've been on a tour bus with him for long enough now to know that okay, not only did we choose a great singer, but we also chose a great guy,
There you go.
and that's so important. I mean, you know, there's the you know what it's like. I mean, in fact, you read so much stuff about bands that on the face of it seem to get on, and then actually behind the
Behind
scenes,
the scenes, it's not the case.
it's
Yeah.
awful, you know. And we've not had any of that. And we did our longest tour we've ever done last year, and you know, 3 weeks on a tour bus together. By the end of that time, you're either going to be throwing things at each other or having a great time, and it was exactly the latter. You know, we just bonded very very closely on that tour.
So the new material on the album, obviously with a different singer who's got a different style, do you think, to my ears, the album is a little bit more rock focused? And based on what you said before about how Alberto is more of a like a traditional rock singer, did that kind of shift the way the material kind of came about a little bit, do you think? Yeah.
Yeah, I think it did. You know, Alberto brought a lot to the table. Obviously, he brought the tone of his voice, but he also brought some songs as well. So, you know, that changes things. But there's actually I've been a little bit frustrated over the last few years that we seem to be getting a reputation as a kind of folk rock band. But, I mean, we did an album called Folklore, and you know, the problem is there's folk music and there's folklore. They're two different things.
Yeah.
There's connections, but they are two different things. But people seem to see the word folk and think folk rock. And you know, I like folk music, but I'm not, you know, I don't sit around in lederhosen, you know, playing acoustic guitar all day. You know, you know, I like rock music, and so for me, for the last 3 or 4 years, I was thinking I want the band to be moving back into a rock direction, really, where I see our kind of hearts being. So that was kind of organic anyway. But of course, with Alberto having a more rocky voice, I think that also has helped shift things slightly. And it's been nice to get you know, there's a couple of songs where we just get the guitars out a bit more than we have done recently. And I can see us doing that. I mean, we're never going to become Dream Theater, but I can see us, you know, in the future maybe heading slightly more, having more slightly heavier moments, I think, amongst the 12 strings and the mellotron and all that. I think that's probably the way
Yeah, I
forward.
mean you've still got the violin and the acoustic guitars
Yeah,
there.
yeah,
And so that's probably
absolutely.
always
But
going
no,
to
I
be.
mean, you know, the core sound of the band, you know, I'm an evolutionary person in terms of musical styles. I like bands to evolve. I'm not really a handbrake turn kind of uh, you know, change style every album. And some people's, I mean, okay, a good example, Stephen Wilson is somebody who seems to like to throw handbrake turns into their music. For me, okay, that's one approach, but I prefer the evolutionary thing because I think, you know, you bring people with you, but also it seems more like you are just writing, you know, probably what you're where you're good, you know, where your writing lies comfortably rather than trying to be something different just for the sake of it, really. So
Yeah.
I put my so for me, music is either good or bad, you know, whether the style of it or what genre it is less important to me. But you've got to write from your heart, otherwise there's no point.
Yeah, for sure. So one of the tracks that really stood out for me, and I believe it's the single on the album, Oblivion, is
Mm,
a terrific song, and it hits you immediately, and that probably is a good indication for maybe that more rock direction, but it still has
yeah,
all the big train qualities that we
yeah, yeah.
all have come to know and love. But man, it's catchy. It's got some good guitar riffs going on, and his vocals are just outstanding on that.
Yeah, I totally agree, and that's that's it's rocky, but it's in 7/8 in places, and there's a kind of a dreamy middle section, so it kind of covers a lot of bases of it's in a comfortable zone for Big Train fans, but it's got some heavier guitars in it, so it's great fun to play live, and we really enjoyed putting that one together. And as you say, it was the lead single on the album. Just I think really to just show people that things. This is well, there are three singles on the album. There's another one coming out on the 14th February, which is the more ballad end of things. So we've had the kind of a prog one, a ballad one, and a heavier one. So I think that gives a fair representation of the album across maybe 20 minutes of music. But of course, there's 60 minutes of music on the album, and
Yeah.
so it will bits of it will go off in any of those directions. But I think we've tried to work with Inside Out to give people a feel for what the album as a whole will sound like.
How cool is it to have a guy like Nick DiVirgilio on board now for quite a while? He's been with
Well,
the band, and he's done all this stuff before, so he's a veteran of the scene, and he's gone through similar type things with Spock's Beard. I mean, it's got to be great to have him as part of the family, right?
it's immense. I mean, he's a dear old friend now. I'm pleased to say an old friend because we've been working together since 2007, and initially it was just as a session guy, and then as the band began to lift off and Spock's were coming to an end, he was happy to come on board as a member. But now, it's his band. There's no question he's obviously he's off with Mr. Big at the moment, doing some sort of session touring, and that's going to be a part of any musician's life because it's hard to make money in the music business. So you've
I
got to
know. I
do
saw him with
you,
Steve Hackett a year and a half ago. I was so shocked. I was
exactly.
like, wow, Nick is playing with
Yeah,
it.
yeah, yeah,
How
yeah.
cool
And
is
I,
that,
I
right?
I listened to him play Cinema Show because I know that he'll get the groove on that as it should be. But his heart in music is with Big Train, and we're seeing him in 2 or 3 weeks' time as we head off for rehearsals. He's very excited about us coming to the States for the first time. He's just a great guy. He's a great guy to have. And he's just a, you know, he's a proper pro. It's been working like Alberto had done hundreds of live shows. So again, that experience, it really comes to the fore. When people like me that have done far less touring over the years, I'm just kind of Mr. Sit in a room playing guitar and writing songs. But these guys have been out there doing a lot of touring, and suddenly you feel, okay, I've got people that know what they're doing here, and you feel very happy to just go with the flow. That's
Yeah,
great.
absolutely. So speaking of the tour, so we've got a handful of dates coming up here in the States, and I know we want to talk a bit about this. So and it all starts on March 1st, which is album release day, right? You couldn't have timed that any
Yeah,
better.
yeah, happy
And so
Friday.
it looks like Fort Wayne, Indiana is the first show, March
Yeah.
1st, the Sweetwater Performance Theater, and that is sold out.
Hmm.
So there's no tickets left for that particular one. But then we do have some coming up kind of in my backyard. So I'm just north of New York City, about 60 miles north of New York City, but in East Rutherford, New Jersey, at the Rivoli Theater at the Williams Center, and that's the Friday, March 2nd and Sunday, March 3rd.
Saturday and Sunday. Yeah, and
Saturday and
Saturday.
Sunday. Yes, I'm sorry. Yeah, Saturday and Sunday. So we got back-to-back shows. Boom, boom, boom. The first, second, and third. And it's 2 nights in New Jersey. So you're looking forward to that. And you got different opening acts, I believe, playing both nights, right?
Yeah, I think so. I'm not 100% sure about that, to be honest, a bit above my pay grade, but we're certainly we'll vary the set list quite a lot. So it won't be the same set, excuse me, twice. It'll be there'll be a little bit of crossover, but we'll try and vary them as much as we can so people can come and see some fresh things the second
Okay.
night.
And I've heard that's a lovely venue. That's a fairly newish place, and there
Okay,
have been more and more bands playing there. It's in a really, really nice area of East Rutherford, New Jersey. So, a
excellent.
nice little strip with lots of restaurants and things
Oh,
to
cool.
do. So,
Okay.
yeah, so it'll be pretty nice. So there's that.
Oh, excellent.
And then you have a couple days off, right? And then we move over to Massachusetts to the Regent Theater in Arlington, just outside
Yep.
of Boston, and that's March 5th. And
Yep.
then after that, you guys are going back up to New York, upstate to Buffalo, Electric City, Buffalo, and that's the 6th of March. So that's a
Yes.
pretty jam-packed kind of agenda for just a couple of days. Indiana, New Jersey, Massachusetts, and Buffalo. And culminating, then you get about a week off then, and then of course Cruise to the Edge starts. And that is
I think it's less than that. I think it's probably, I'm not entirely sure, but I think it's 2 or 3 days. I think we have to go almost straight down to Miami,
oh, you're
to,
right, it's 2 days. So that's right. The cruise starts on the 8th to the 13th. Yes. So
yeah. So
gotcha.
we'll be flying down to Miami, but otherwise it's tour bus stuff. So some long, I think there's probably a couple of quite long drives there. It's ever so hard for us in old Europe to get a head around how big United States is. I mean, you talk about New York State, and of course we just think New York, but Buffalo is a long way away from from New
That's
York.
hours for me, and I'm not quite at mid-state. So yeah,
Yeah, exactly. So it's just hard for us to process it, despite however many times we're told how big it is. So yeah, there'll be lots of time on the tour bus, but it's an adventure. It's our first time. We've got to dip our toe in the water, and hopefully we'll be able to come back more often. There's a problem with the States, and that is visa costs. And they're talking about putting them up as well. So they're almost. I think if they do put them up, I think basically, unless you are, at the Roger Waters level, most bands will just stop coming, and it just seems utterly crazy to me to destroy a touring industry. Because what will happen is that Europe will probably feel the obligation to kind of do something back. So all it ends up with is borders going up, and walls going up, and all that stuff, and it feels self-defeating for me,
and
but
for the
certainly we're going
fan,
to try.
it's a blow for the fans for sure, who
It is,
are
yeah, it
waiting for
is.
you guys to come over. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not good, and but I mean, we are absolutely, we've got a tiny audience in the States, so we've really got to, if we're going to start to make a splash over there, we've really got to build it up. And we'll do that by multiple touring, but we can only do that if this crazy idea about massive increases in visas, you know, don't doesn't come to pass. I don't get the logic of it, but it's not for me to
Yeah.
just to comment really.
Well, I mean, you guys are on, I mean, on the positive end of it, you guys are on a record label that will definitely promote you heavily. I mean, Inside Out does a great job.
Yeah.
And who knows down the road, looking at the roster on Inside Out, maybe like a tour that features a few of you bands on the roster coming up
Yeah,
here would make sense, right? At some point.
yeah, that's true. I mean, ironically, Haken are playing in New Jersey or New York on one of the nights that we're playing as well. And now Ross, the lead singer, lives about 3 miles away from me in Bournemouth. So
Oh,
it's a
wow.
bizarre thing that two Bournemouth guys are in, just literally 3 miles away from each other in the States on the same night. And hopefully we're not. I think their audience is much more heavy metal than ours is. So probably I don't think we'd be cannibalizing the audiences. But I think that's a good point. Maybe we can find ways of, or the label can help us find ways of just, getting out there with combinations of artists to try and make it trying to make it work for people. But at the visas could literally kill it. They could
Yeah.
kill any band at our level coming. We've had to strip down the lineup of the band to make it affordable in any case. I mean, we have been working as an 11-piece band, and we're going to be doing that on the cruise, with a 4-piece brass band. But we can't afford to keep touring. Like, I mean, it's just financially destroys us. You've got to feed and pay and transport
People,
and
yeah.
accommodate all those people,
Yeah.
with the crew as well. So we're trying to make things work for us, but also deliver the level of performance and also the song. People will want to hear the songs the way that they should sound, and we will, even as a 7-piece, we'll absolutely make sure they sound like they should. But even then, becomes it's a frighteningly expensive business. So we need some help really from the authorities to make artists able to travel both ways, I think.
What are some of the other bands that are also being featured on the cruise? I'm sure that's quite the lineup.
Yeah, it's going to be quite exciting. I mean, I'm a complete newbie to the cruise. Obviously, NDV's been a few times. Ricard and Albie have been, but otherwise, it's yeah. I think we've played twice. I think one. Well, I'm not sure what I'm not sure I'm allowed to say what venues we're playing, but you know, we get two gigs there. But also 5 days kind of in quite nice, hopefully not hurricanes or anything. I don't know much about.
I haven't heard any of it, so you should be okay.
No, no. So hopefully we'll be, you know, if we play on, I heard that if you play on the deck, it can be a little bit wibbly wobbly. So I can imagine my bass pedals sliding across the stage, me trying to follow them or something. But we'll see. It's an adventure, and you know, at this stage in my life, and with all that's happened in my life, with the loss of David, you know, I think I try to live life to the full and just to seize every moment that I can to you know to make the most of things. That's all we can all try to do, really.
Yeah, cool. Well, I wish you the best of the luck on the tour and with the new album coming out. So again, March 1st, The Likes of Us from Big Big Train on Inside Out Music. So go check that out. I'm going to drop down in the comments section. I'm going to put a link to the tour dates. So folks want to go try and see if they can scoop up tickets for the remaining shows. Go right ahead and do that. And Gregory, I really thank you for coming on the channel here today
Thank
and
you.
talking about the upcoming album and the tour. I think it's got a lot of people pretty excited because I think the kind of momentum of Big Big Train has continued to go over the last couple of years, and I think with your new partnership with Inside Out, I think that's going to continue to grow. So I wish you all the luck in the
Pleasure.
world, and
Thank you very much. Good to talk to you.
same here, same here. So thanks for watching, everybody. Visit us on the web at www.seatranquility.org. We're on Facebook, we're on YouTube, all together, all the damn time. Please subscribe if you haven't already and click on that notification bell so you get alert of all of our content as it posts. And please do hit the like button before you leave. Go out and support Big Big Train, pick up the new album, go check out the tour, and we'll see you soon. For Greg Spawton, I'm Pete Pardo. Thanks for watching, everybody. Take care.
Cheers.